Hey everyone, this is Matt Miller from Ditch That Textbook, and today I've got a really great guest for you. This is someone that I've seen out on Twitter talking about a really important topic, I think, on Google Apps that I knew just as soon as I saw her talking about it, I knew that I had to have her on the blog in some way. So this is Christine Pinto, and she's going to talk to us about the idea of GAFE for littles, or using Google Apps for education with younger kids. So Christine, why don't you just give us the quick introduction about who you are and where you are and what you do and all of that.
Sounds good. Hi, it's an honor to be chatting with Matt Miller here, and I love to share about GAFE for littles. So recently I taught the spring transitional kindergarten class. It started in January and I finished with my kids in June. These kids were 4 years old, and by the time they left me, they were turning 5. So they were late fours. And I naturally like to explore technology and the education piece with it. I was student teaching in the fall with 4th and 5th grade, and we were using Google Classroom. And when I got my own class in January, I was like, okay, so what technology things am I going to do with my kids? And kind of talked to some other primary teachers about it, and it wasn't really happening so much in my area. So I took the initiative to explore and see how it was going to work with the little kids. We had just been doing, going to the computer lab and doing some like educational games on websites just to get down that foundation of like navigating on the screen and everything. And but it wasn't cutting it for me. I wanted to get my kids creating and doing something meaningful with technology. We also had access to iPads like 2 times a week, so I wanted to utilize the technology resources that we did have. So I got them on Google Apps in March, which was probably about 2.5 months into their school year with me, and I can show you some samples of some things that they did. Real quick, let's see. Hold on, I got it.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So so basically, like you were saying, yours in this spring transitional class you're talking about, they start with you when they were 4. And so these guys are like, I mean, they're even like younger than our traditional kindergartners, and they're able to get on and do this, which I think is awesome. And so can you remind us real quick where specifically in the United States you are?
Oh yeah, sure. I'm sorry. I'm located in Southern California. I was teaching at Extra Elementary for Bonita Unified, and this year I'm going to be teaching kindergarten in Arcadia, which is still located in Southern California.
Awesome. Very good. And so what you were saying a minute ago, just to kind of follow up on this, is that you guys had been visiting sites, working on navigating on the computer and everything, but you just saw the potential for more. Like, it was important for you to have your students, even being really young students, it was important for you to have them creating, right?
Exactly. Because they can. Like, I saw like a lot of them, like even just watching how they interacted with iPads, like how they just were natural at tapping everything and not really being afraid of clicking on something that was wrong or where they weren't supposed to be, or just seeing like, what does this do? So I knew that there was potential there, and I wanted to see what they can do with the concepts that we were learning at school.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, very good. And so you said that you've got some activities, some examples, because I know that my readers and the people who watch this are going to go, okay, I'd love to see how this actually looks. So you've got some concrete activities that you can show us that are the kinds of things that you do with your students with Google Apps, right?
Yes. Yes. Let me screen.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Can you see that?
Yes. Yeah, we got your screen.
Okay, so I chose 2. Oh, it's loading. Oh, come on. I chose 2 activities that really kind of captures what the kids could do. So we're looking at collaborative slides, and each one is a slide that I took from a student, and this is just like a holistic view. I had the kids work as a group to capture things that they saw in the classroom. We focused on some high frequency words, which included I and C. And in transitional kindergarten, they're learning about like concepts of print and how to like, recognize sentences. They're also studying like, how to spell some of the color words, like 101 correspondence, number recognition, all that stuff. So this kind of activity captures a lot of different things that they can do with the technology. They can take a picture and insert the picture on a slide. And I had this IC sentence frame there, and they were able to type the color and the number onto the sentence frame. So I'm going to give you a closer view. But keep in mind, as we're looking at this was my purple group, that their slides presentation. And these colors that you see here represent one student. So in the course of like 15 minutes, because I ran this during centers, the kids were able to, we were on iPads for this activity. They were able to switch accounts so that they were in their own account. They were able to access this Google Slides presentation and put 2 slides in from the ViewMaster. They were able to insert a layout and put a picture on there and type out what they did see. So taking a closer look.
So what you just, if I can interrupt you for just a second, what you just said there was that kids were able to switch accounts. They were able to use iPads. They were able to take pictures and add. They were even jumping into the master slide, I think. And I think, I know hearing that, I know some of my teachers, some of the teachers that see this are going to be like, holy cow, that's an awful lot for me to be able to do. But this seems like this is probably going to be the theme of this whole discussion, empowering kids to be able to do it and saying, yes, if we give them a chance, this is the kind of stuff that they can do, right?
Exactly. I mean, they were able to, like icons are everything for the kids, and how we speak the language, how we because it is kind of like a new language for them to recognize, the little mountain picture. It's an image, click on, the yellow box, that's Google Slides. They're picking up on all this information. And the more practice and the more frequently that teachers would use Google Apps with their kids, they'll just absorb it and they'll remember it. And whatever terms that we use, they'll be using them too. But yes, they were able to definitely, it was a number of tasks that they were able to do with this. And so, so should I continue with sharing their slides?
Yes, please. Sorry for the interruption there.
No, it's cool. I'm glad that you reiterated what I had said, because you know that it's a lot to take in. Yeah. So this kiddo, took a picture of, the carpet. It was blue, and it's not centered on the slide, which is totally okay. But the thing that's really important to mention is that when the kids take a picture, it takes up the whole slide. So the kid, I told the kids, okay, so if you don't make your picture smaller, it's going to cover the sentence, and you're not going to be able to see what you're typing. So adjusting the picture, that in the beginning was like a little bit of a task on in itself. But at the beginning of the 15-minute period, they learned how to do it. At the end of the 15-minute period, they remembered how to do it. So this is pretty cool. This is the same student took a picture of blocks and was able to type the number 7 that was there. So this was those slides that I showed you that were in small version. These are the actual slides that I took from the kids' presentation and put them in here. So
now, can you remind us, like we see the pink and we see the 7, is it each student is doing one color and one number, and then we switch to a different student? Is this how how this is working?
Yeah, so like here we're on a blue background slide. So working collaboratively in the same presentation, I know that even if I was teaching upper elementary, I'd be kind of nervous to try that out with the older kids and everything. So I was kind of I was confident, but still a little apprehensive, like, how is this going to go with the kids all working on the same presentation? Are they going to delete their slides? So I tried to think, how am I going to get the kids working collaboratively but in their own space? So I tend to talk about device indicators, or on the iPads there was like a piece of tape, colored tape, and I said, okay, if you have the blue colored tape on your iPad, that means you're going to click on the blue slide when you insert it. So that way, so they knew if I'm in a green slide, if I have the blue and I'm the blue iPad, that means I'm on someone else's slide and I need to be working in a blue slide kind of thing.
That's awesome, because I never would have, when you were flipping through those slides, I wasn't even paying attention to the fact that some of them were blue, some of them were pink in the background. That's an awesome way to keep kids in the right spot, I would think.
Yes, definitely. That was helpful. And so I mentioned this earlier. So all that was on the slide was IC and then this blank. In the master slides, when you create like a template for the kids, you can put like a text placeholder here. So that way they just have to like tap on it or click on it, and then it gives them what I like to call the dancing line, which means that you can type something. And so they were able to type the numbers and the letters right there on top of it. So this is another kiddo. Now we changed to a different kiddo. This is an orange slide. So in the beginning, because I did this, they're working with me, like they're at my center doing this activity. So I would say, okay, go take a picture of a color. And so they would go off, take a picture of the color, and then they would come back to me. And like, I was just there to like coach them. This was like an activity that we had done, you know, closer to the end of the school year, similar to other activities that we had done previously though. And so they didn't even need me to show them how to adjust the picture anymore. The typing was somewhat new, so I just said, okay, you know, here's how you pull up the keyboard on the iPad, and they were able to type it out and everything. So yeah, I mean, it was really neat to see how far they came in such a short time. We started in March, and then we continued using the apps through June. So they came a long way in a short time. And I wish I would have had the kids for a full year so I could have, you know, continued to do more with them and see what else they could do. I believe that's my last slide for, yeah, and then I have a different activity. But Matt, did you want to have other questions that you wanted to talk about before I start talking about this?
How did you guess? Yes, absolutely. So, so as far as the collaborative slides, and first of all, I have to say, using slides in this collaborative way has been one of my favorite activities in my own classroom with high school Spanish students. And I love getting them all into the same slide presentation and then giving them all their own slide where they can do a writing prompt for me. They can do a little bit of internet research. I mean, there's a ton that you can do with that, and that gives them their own little piece of digital real estate in the entire classroom space, which I love. And I love the fact that this transitions all the way from my high school kids all the way down to your littles. So I think that's cool. And the one question that I still had was, I know that you said that they had logged in, that your kids had logged in, they were able to switch accounts and stuff, but whenever your students would grab an iPad, and let's say we got the one that had the blue colored tape on it, like you said, does that iPad already have the slide presentation loaded up on it? And whose account is it loaded up through?
Okay, so hold on, let me see. I'm gonna put my face back on there because I feel it's probably weird for viewers to be listening to to be looking at a slide instead of me. But let's see. There I am. Okay, so they accessed everything through Google Classroom. So before our center time started, I pushed out an assignment to the kids through Google Classroom. So nothing is loaded for the kids. A lot of times we did work on the iPads, but we did work on Chromebooks and the desktops too. But on the iPad for like that activity with the collaborative slides, I have on the iPad, all the Google apps are bubbled into like what I like to call the Google window, and it's like in like the little taskbar area. So they knew to, you know, click on the Google window, click on tap on Google Classroom, and it would take them to Classroom. And then they picked up so quick on that pattern of tap on the baby arrow, you know, look for your face, tap on your face, and then that's how they switched accounts. The nice thing about working on the mobile devices is that once they're signed in, they're already signed in. So it was just a matter of switching accounts. And since I was right there coaching them, I was always checking, like making sure that they were in the right account. But it's definitely important, like when we would work on Chromebooks and everything, and we were like sharing the devices, like here's how you sign out, you know, here's how you know, switch accounts and everything. So just because that's just like the basis and the foundation of kind of like digital citizenship. You want to be working in your own space, you know, and everything like that. And it's like safe approaches when you're using, you know, technology tools and everything. So yeah, so they access the slides through Google Classroom. So
nice.
you they pulled it up. Nothing was loaded there for them. A lot of the times, like they're switching, they're rotating. So that means like I don't have time to load anything for them. They did it themselves.
Yeah, yeah. And that, I mean, if that's what they're going to do going forward in other elementary classes and then in a middle school, I mean, assuming that Google Classroom hangs around that long, but even if it's not Google Classroom, it's going to be something else. Those same skills of logging on, knowing that you're in your own account, doing work in your own account, that's stuff that's going to follow them all through school and beyond, don't you think?
Oh, exactly. And that's something that like I've taken time to reflect on over the summer of like everything that the kids did, where it's kind of like, you know, I try to modify things for the little kids, but I don't want to take away like, you know, their capabilities and being able to like navigate and still make it broad enough to where, you know, here's how we did it in Miss Pinto's class, but next year when I'm in somebody else's class, it's probably going to be a little bit the same way. I don't want to make it too easy for them because, you know, their future teachers are going to be doing different approaches. And I want them to be able to, you know, to continue with what they can do. Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Okay. You ready to move on to the second activity?
Oh, yeah, sure. Let's see. Hold on. Give me a sec. The screen.
All right, cool.
Yeah. All right, there we go. So, like I said, I had two activities. So this is the second one, and you know, getting little kids working in spreadsheets. That was pretty. To me, that was mind blowing because I wasn't in a spreadsheet until pretty much college, and so I decided. I'm not gonna lie, Alice Keeler did inspire me to get the kids in spreadsheets because you know she's like, what can they do in a spreadsheet? And I'm like, I don't know how to use a spreadsheet.
Because if you ask Alice, she says a spreadsheet is the answer to pretty much anything, I think.
And I before I always kind of questioned that, like, is it really? But now I understand, like, oh, but it is, you know? So, so here I have, the kiddos were always, like, you know, doing paper graph activities, like around Valentine's Day, they graph, like, the candy hearts. They would graph, like, you know, different kinds of insects, like, and everything. So these little pattern or counting bears, we used them pretty often, and I had them I gave them this basket of bears. They sorted the colors and they graphed it on the paper chart, and then because that's what they're used to doing, and I said, okay, so now we're like, you know, what they were doing was transferring the information into a spreadsheet, which is just like, you know, a great foundation skill for one, working in spreadsheets, two, graphing information. You know, I mean, you figure they kind of collected some data here by graphing the bears and reflecting on how many that they had. So this was pretty cool. And so what they did here was there's well, Alice created this template where if they type in a number, that it will add like a fill color to it. So there's a fill color that's added to the cell. And so that was pretty much, this was the first activity that they did in Sheets, believe it or not. Actually, I take that back. This was the second activity that they did in Sheets before they had done a pixel art activity. But going off of that task of filling a cell with color, that opened up so many avenues to activities that they can do in spreadsheets, which was one of these, which was graphing the counting bears.
Mm-hmm. Very good, very good. Okay, so I know when we use, whenever we use technology in the classroom, we're trying to avoid that old substitution thing where it's like, if the activity is what we'd used to do with paper, then if we use the technology to continue to do the same thing, it's like we're using technology to do the same learning. Like, we want the learning to improve and the learning to change. And so just after you've done that for a little while, why do you like the idea of doing this in a spreadsheet as opposed to just doing it on paper? Like, what are some of the benefits to taking that to a digital route? What are some ways that it sort of either kicks the learning up a notch or it exposes them to some things that they might not have seen otherwise? What are some reasons that you like that over paper?
Just because, like, you know, with paper, it was just a matter of, like, you know, seeing the number and just kind of like coloring up to a certain point. Here it's kind of like they're becoming familiar with the digital tools. Just like also, like, you know, like even like I guess you could say digital vocabulary. Like, I would say squares, yes, but I would also say, like, you know, or like rectangles, depending on which spreadsheet activity we were working in. I would say cells, or I would say squares or rectangles, and then, but I would also say cells because I want them to develop that digital language of being able to understand, like, what it is that they're actually working into. And this is like, just like a foundation activity, but like, had I been working with the kids longer, they could have been, I'm learning that they can definitely like, probably like, insert like, formulas to what they can do in the spreadsheet. So foundation activity that can lead to activities that will take them further, but they need to be starting with a task where they feel comfortable, and this activity is starting with the transition point of, okay, I've done this, I've done this on paper. I can do this on the computer or on the iPad. So they're not afraid to continue working in that application or anything like that. But just definitely that exposure to, to a digital tool and like exploring it. Because like, had I just given them a blank spreadsheet, and, they would have been like, what do I do in this? And kind of thing. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Absolutely. Okay. I love those two activities. I'm so glad that you shared those, and that you had some files already that were, that we could take a look at. So that was perfect. Okay. So we talked about using collaborative slides. And then the thing that I love about collaborative slides is that, I mean, with you there, you practiced IC. And so we pulled in numbers and we pulled in colors. But, I mean, there's a ton of things that you can do with collaborative slides. It's just a nice framework to be able to do all kinds of learning. And then the graphing data, just the idea, like you said, I mean, you said that it blew your mind to have kids working in spreadsheets as kindergartners or in that age group. And I think that's awesome. So those are two really, really good activities. Okay, so I wanted to jump to, and we've kind of been touching on this already a little bit, so if you want to reiterate anything, that's fine, and I may pull in a couple things you've already said, but just in general, we've already had a couple of concrete activities. Oh, you know what? Before we jump into this part, since we were talking about concrete activities, there's one that I got to do with a group of, I want to say it was kindergartners or first graders or something like that. That was neat. And what I did, and tell me what you think about this and if there's anything you would do different or add to it or whatever. We were working on, it was just basic like addition, subtraction type stuff. And so we did a collaborative slide activity where every kid had their own slide. And what I did was I went and found some basic clip art just by going to insert image and then using the image search. And so I think I found a tree, and then I found an apple, and I just duplicated that apple and made about 10 apples and one tree on a slide. And then I took that slide and I made a duplicate of it for every student. So if we had 18 kids in the class, I made 18 duplicates, and each slide had a tree and it had 10 apples. Oh, and it had a basket too. There was a little clip art of a basket. And so we started off by we used those apples as like digital manipulatives, basically. So we took those apples and we stuck them on the tree. And so we'd put like 4 apples on the tree, and we'd say, okay, now if we've got 4 apples on the tree, we're gonna put 2 of them in the basket. We're gonna subtract 2 off. And so it gave them an opportunity to practice those things, but it also let them work in that digital space. Does that sound like the kind of thing that you might use in your classroom?
Yes, definitely. And this year, like I'm challenging myself to think like, okay, I definitely still want to use like physical manipulatives with the kids and everything, because they that's important. That's something I want to tell others is like, don't get rid of, the manipulatives in the classroom and everything. It's cool when we bring them to a digital environment, especially if it's something that you don't have a whole class set of materials for. When they're digital, obviously the kids can have access to their own digital manipulatives. But yes, definitely. I mean, early exposure to the Google apps and everything, and just like, getting a feel for like, clicking and dragging is such a big, is a skill in itself, and that's just like a foundation skill. Also, yes, definitely. I mean, and that's like a starting point, where it's like, the trees there, the apples are there, the baskets there, and then if they can like, kicking it up a notch to whatever kind of a problem that they're doing, if they can like justify or explain their thinking, that's how you pick up the the DOK with an activity like that and everything.
Love that.
Yes.
That's awesome. Okay. All right, so the direction I was starting to switch this before I remembered that little digital manipulatives activity was just in general, and we've kind of touched on some of this earlier, but some general advice, some general rules of thumb that you might give teachers that want to use Google Apps in the classroom with younger students. Are there any broad strategies? Are there any like little tidbits of, like a little nugget of wisdom that you wish someone would have told you? Just go wherever you want with any of that.
Well, definitely like that nugget of wisdom. I did in the beginning, I had just joined Twitter when I started this stuff up, so I didn't really know about the personal or professional learning network that there is out there. But had I joined earlier, I could have like questioned out to other educators like, hey, what do you think about this? And probably at least gotten some ideas. In the beginning, like I knew the kids had the potential to use Google Apps and everything. I just had no idea how I was gonna get them to to start up and everything. So the piece of advice that I give people is to like really try to just let the kids do the exploring and learn how to navigate. This past year when I taught, I did a lot of the initial setup on the devices for the kids just because it was kind of like, okay, so instead of, in my mind frame in the last year was, okay, instead of dragging them through that, let's get them to the point where they already, the classroom's already created and everything, and they just have to get into the classroom. But this year I have a whole different approach. I've been in school for 2 days. The very first day of school, we talked about what's a Chromebook. I showed the kids the Chromebook, and I was like, okay, who knows what this is? And a lot of them like, it's a TV, it's a computer. And so like that, like just broadening their schema in that sense, where it's like, I said, okay, this is kind of like a computer, but the computer has a name. What's its name? And one of my kids actually knew it's a Chromebook. And so then, just like in the beginning, you're exploring a device even before they're on the device. But then, so that was the first day of school. We did like a cool thinking map of breaking apart, like, this is a screen, this is the keyboard, this is a touchpad, because those are things that I'm going to be referring to. So I want them to already establish that vocabulary of what the pieces of a Chromebook were. Also, so that was the first day of school. And then on the second day of school, I just got them logging into their Chromebooks already. So I haven't even created my classroom yet, my Google Classroom yet. Yesterday, the first task was for them to log into the Chromebook. And because that initial setup is important, and I know that they can do it, so less work for me too. If they're logging themselves in and setting their own profile pictures, that was their take. So to do that, I had created like little cards for them to use. Let's see, I have one here. This is like a sample of one that I have. I don't know, can you see that too well? There's like one piece. There's one.
There, yeah. Now we can. Whenever I talk, it switches me here. I'm gonna switch it so that it only presents you. Okay, leave that up there. Okay, good. Yeah, so we can see the top of that. Go ahead and tell us about that card.
Okay, so this is kind of like a sample of like what I gave the kids. So the top part is gonna be they have to put their username in there. So these are like their numbers that they're gonna have, and on my keyboard, or on their keyboards, the only initial setup that I did do was put pieces of colored tape. So I guess if you're on a computer right now and you look, so like the top row has numbers on it. I put like a piece of, well, in this case, it would be orange. So like example, I put a piece of orange tape on the number row. The next one has the QWER row that would be a different color, and then so forth as the rows of the keyboard go down. So my mindset for the kids was like, okay, if you see an orange 7, you're going to look in the orange row and you're going to go type the 7. Just so that way, like, I mean, for a lot of the kids, I can't assume that they've been on computers before. So finding the keys is going to take a little bit of time, but something to help them speed up the process. And then the cool thing is that, like on the Chromebook, the at school or, was already there. So once they put in their username, then they were prompted to put their password in. And our passwords are eight characters with a random assortment of numbers and letters. So this is especially where the part came in handy, where they had to look on the keyboard and try to find like the row with the color and everything. for them to type a letter in. So the circles I put there just to help them out. It's like they serve as little placeholders. Like, okay, so I just typed this one in. Now I'm going to go move my finger over and type the next letter, like a placeholder to help them remember where they're at. Honestly, I can't really say I saw my kids utilizing my little circles here, but it is how I try to adapt and modify as much as I can. And, it's just an option there for them if they want to do it. However, I will be completely honest. And, I was so excited to get the kids trying to log on and everything that I didn't finish making the cards for everybody. So they had like their usernames and their passwords, but not all of them had the colors in there. So some of them just had, instead of having the colors in there, it was just their password without any colors on it. So all they did was look at the screen and find the letters, and a lot of them knew their letters already. Talk about like an initial assessment for the beginning of the year. This was my opportunity to see, okay, do you know your letters, or can you even that skill of like matching, if you don't know what the number looks, if you don't know the name of the number, can you still match it on the keyboard kind of thing. So that was, some good information I was able to collect yesterday just, through observation. So anyways, going back, yeah, so I color-coded the little squares for the kids and everything. But like I said, bad teacher here. I didn't finish everybody's yet. So the kids were the kids were still able to locate the keys on the keyboard without the colors. So that's like also something else like I want to share too. In the couple of the workshops we've had like little kids, sign in and everything. They don't have a little card or anything like that, but it is helpful to have around. But don't think that the kids can't do it without the card kind of thing. But a gnarly password that's eight characters long with the random, numbers and letters and everything, they need something that they can refer to. But yeah, so yes, anyways, yesterday the kids, they put their username in, they put their password in, and then immediately it asks them to set a profile picture. And so they can choose like a butterfly or, dog or whatever, but I wanted them to take their picture. So it was so cute just to see their little reactions of like, how, their face pops up inside of like a square to take the picture. So, and also something else that, that's important is like I didn't show them how to do that. I said I had them in a small group and I said, okay, everybody come over here and let's look at so-and-so's computer. Okay, now she's going to, we talked about the cursor. I said, okay, she's going to move the little black thing. You see the little arrow? That's the cursor. She's going to move that over here on top of the camera. She's going to click on it. So I had a student model it. I didn't even do any of the modeling. The kids did it. So I think that I want them to get the perspective that they can learn from each other. I'm simply there just standing there as a coach, just kind of like walking them through everything. And so yeah, and then it was important that they were all excited that they had their picture there, and then right after they did it, I showed them how to sign out because another rotation of kids were going to come. So day 2 of school, first time on the Chromebooks, and they were able to log in. And in the beginning of the school year, especially in kindergarten, we talk all about how we sit on the carpet, how we line up, how we walk down the hallway. Why not introduce how to start using technology? I mean, why am I going to wait until October to get my kids on the Google Apps when I can start working with the foundation skills that they do have? Next week, we're starting the alphabet. I can start using, integrating some technology pieces with that. So, I mean, that needs to be part of our, school 101, how to use the Chromebook, just talking about that and everything. So,
yeah. So that's awesome. I love that. Now, I'm sorry, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
No, that was done. That was it.
Okay. So, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit, and I'm on your side on this one, but I want to hear your response to this, because I could hear a couple of, don't worry, this one isn't that hard. I can hear teachers going, this sounds like an awful lot of tech training at the beginning. It almost seems like for the first couple of days, we're just talking about Google Apps. We're just talking about Google Classrooms. Like, I don't want to teach kids about technology all year long. I just, I want to teach them the content. But it sounds like for the first few days here, it's awful heavy on Google Classroom and heavy on Google Apps and all of that stuff. So I know how I would respond to that, and I'm in your camp here, but I want to throw that to you and hear your response to that kind of thing of, if you're going to spend all of this time, you know, I don't want to just be teaching kids technology. I want to teach them the real content.
Okay, so I mean, I could talk for hours about this kind of stuff, and it frustrates me if people have a closed mindset like that. Like, why am I going to even just do this? Or, you know, I've heard like, you know, I talked to a teacher last year, and he was like, you know, why am I going to do this with my kids? They're going to do that when they're older. You know, why not start them young? But to respond to your question, it's setting the foundation. Think about it, even like day one in kindergarten, where it's kind of like, you know, are we not going to teach our kids how to write, you know, in the beginning because it's too hard to hold a pencil? No, we still need to show them how to hold a pencil and everything. So with technology, it's the same kind of idea needs to be applied there, where it's kind of like, you know, we do want our kids using technology, and it's great, but we can't just like jump the first couple of hoops of introducing, you know, what a device is and here's how you use it, because you can't just throw the kids into you know, interacting with technology and have them not knowing even what they're working on, the names of like the, you know, the icons or the applications that they're working on. Your strong foundation in the beginning will make it so much easier. You know, give it like a couple weeks in, you won't even have to say click here, click here, click here. They'll just remember, this is where I go, this is how I navigate and everything, and they just run with it. I guarantee you the next time I have the kids log in and everything, I can probably just hand them their cards and they'll already remember what to do, just because they pick up on patterns like that so fast. So have an open mindset and a growth mindset to, you know, your strong foundation in the beginning will make the rest of the year so much easier. Just like people have been telling me, you know, in the beginning, it's all about your routines and your procedures and everything. So like you have to establish those. Where just is kind of like, yeah, I'd love to dive into, you know, doing, you know, some hardcore stuff with the kindergartners next week, digitally and, you know, without the Chromebook and everything. But I need to set, you know, my expectations and my procedures and routines and everything, so that way we do have a smooth school year and everything.
Very good. That was an excellent answer, and it's so much like the kind of answer that I think I would give. You know, if they say at the beginning, no, I don't want to have to take all this time to teach technology, but eventually when you can get to the point where technology is kind of like transparent, where you get to the point where it's second nature and you're using it just like you'd use a pencil and a piece of paper, then you now have this much more powerful device, I think, that you can use, and many more capabilities for creating and sharing and doing all those things. And after a while, you don't have to think about it, but you do have to lay the foundation, like you said, before you can ever get to that point. And it doesn't take all that time. You're not going to be teaching technology all year long, because it's a learning curve and kids are going to eventually get it, right?
Exactly. And we can't, like, this is like new stuff to them. We can't expect them to know it already, but I will just, like, you know, I mentioned this earlier, they pick up on patterns so quick, whereas kind of like, you know, the first day you show them how to do something and, you know, have them practice and they'll remember how to do it. So it's not, you know, it's not strenuous or anything like that, you know. It's definitely worth it to start the kids, you know, in the beginning with it, even if it's just early exposure. Anything and everything is helpful.
Love it. That's great. Okay, one more thing I want to kind of close on this. And as I've been listening to you talk, especially when you're talking about the activities, I've been kind of like picking up on some of these things that you're saying. Like, and it sounds like you have some really neat, kind of like your own vocabulary for certain stuff. Like you said, click on your face, which is about, you know, getting logged in. And you said you've got the dancing line, which is where you type things in. I was wondering if you can think of any of those like keywords that you use that seem to click easier with these younger kids. If there's any of those that you can suggest to us. I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, so if you don't think of anything else, then that's okay. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. As far as like, because the cool thing about digital stuff is that there's a lot of icons everywhere, and the icons are somewhat, I guess you can say, I want to say they can be used across different platforms. So like the little image picture with the mountain and everything with the little sun or whatever, like you'll see that in Google Apps. You'll probably see that in other applications. So, you know, there's just like, you know, tidbits of tidbits of funny words that I come up with, I guess, as I go for recognizing the apps. I mean, sometimes I come up with stuff on the spot. Like yesterday was the dancing line, you know, just because it's kind of like you need to think of a, you know, of a point of like connect what they do know to something that's new. So they kind of know what it means to dance, and they know what a line looks like. So there's the dancing line.
Yeah.
What was your question about, like, if there's any other
yeah. And even if you can't think of any other ones, I think what you just said there was really important, that even if you come up with something just off the top of your head and you name it something, you know, like the dancing line, or like click on your face, or whatever. I think that's neat. And then it's probably a good idea to continue to use that, if you come up with a good one, to continue to use those same cues over time.
Right. Yes, definitely, to keep it consistent. But also, it's kind of like, I want the kids to definitely pick up on the names of, like, the Google apps, for example. So, like in classroom, you know, I'll be telling them, you know, click on, like, I think it's like, you know, the yellow and white square, and that's Google Slides. So I'm going to say yellow, white square, Google Slides. So I want them to put together that icon or like the little tiny visual and the name of the actual application. So one day I won't even have to say click on the yellow and white square. I'll just be able to say click on Google Slides, and they'll know what I'm talking about. Just like, you know, in the beginning, it's just kind of like, you know, I guess maybe transferring and translating some information to them. I have funny little phrases all the times I say with the kids, like the baby arrow, you know, you click on the baby arrow. I taught the kids last year about the hamburger, you know, like they pick up a hamburger. And so for them, though, I mean, all they see are 3 lines, though. So, and that's like nothing big. I mean, the hamburger, some grown-ups use it, some people don't, but they got a kick out of it, but they remembered it. So I showed them, like, you know, a visual of, like, of the hamburger and the 3 lines. And then, like, you know, instead of me saying, when I would start to say, tap on the 3 lines or whatever, they would be like, you mean the hamburger, you know? So they would correct me, and I was like, oh, yes, the hamburger, you know? So they pick up on, like, you know, the language and everything that we use. But so we kind of do need to be careful that, like, we don't, I guess, hold them back from learning the actual names of everything. So, like, this year it'll probably be like, you know, click on the mountain picture, but it'll also be click on the mountain picture. That's an image or something like that, or that's a picture or something like that. So they do know that, you know, when that there's a name to the mountain picture. It's an image. You know, you're inserting an image. So, but that's just the icon that they look for.
Perfect. That's awesome. By the way, I love the hamburger. I've heard it called a couple of other things too. Somebody called it pancakes. It's like if you're not into meat, you know, the pancakes is like the vegetarian version. But my favorite one, I think, is calling it the 3 hot dogs.
3 hot dogs.
You know why I like that one? Because if you think about it, if it's the 3 lines, the hot dogs are sitting this way. But if you look at the hot dogs from the end, sometimes that menu button is 3 dots.
That's cool.
It's just from from a different direction. So for me, it's always 3 hot dogs. Although I do like the hamburger one too. That one's one of my favorites. So
that's cool. I haven't heard of the pancakes one or the hot dogs one. That's pretty cool. I was thinking about the 3 dots. I was talking to someone about that, and they're like, "What do you call the 3 dots?" And I was like, "The 3 dots." I was like, "But I guess if you want to give it a name, you can say the snowman or something like that, you know?"
The snowman. I never would have thought of that. That's awesome. I love that. So, all right, Christine, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we let you go, can you tell everybody if they want to get in contact with you? You know, Twitter, or, you know, if you've got a website or anything that you want to share with people if they want to learn more about you and what you do.
Yeah, sure. Hold on. I'm going to pull up a slider here of information I have for myself. So.
Oh, she's prepared. Awesome.
I try. Let's see.
Yeah.
So there it's loading. There we go. So this is my information. I blog on ChristinePinto.com, and my Twitter handle is @PintoBeans11. And
nice.
The hashtag that's going to be used most often is GAFE for Littles. I did do GAFE and TK last year, but I'm sharing now on GAFE for Littles because it could be, you know, it's not just in TK. It could be used across primary grade levels. Let me add something to this slide. Hold on. I'm going to add my class Twitter on here. Hold on. Let's see.
Oh, you've got class Twitter. Nice.
Yes.
Got breaking news, people. She's adding to the slide.
There we go. Yeah, I'm adding to the slide. There we go. Is that on there?
Yeah, I love that.
Cool. So there's my, this is my class Twitter. So we're starting to talk about that, and it's pretty cool just because it's kind of like, like I told my kids' parents, you know, we're going to have a class Twitter. And so I've been posting pictures of what we're doing with technology, off technology, and stuff like that. I'm going to get them connected with other like kindergarten classes, you know, just to see what other kids are doing and stuff like that. But yes, you can definitely learn more on ChristinePinto.com. A lot of like the terminology that I use in today's hangout is, you can probably find it on my website somewhere. And I like some of the stuff I even talked about today. I haven't even vlogged yet. Like yesterday, the stuff I did with the kids with logging on and everything. I'll be sharing that insight soon on my blog. And yeah, so if you hit me up on Twitter, I do respond. It might not be within the same day, but I do a pretty good job of getting back to everybody.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. Okay. This has been awesome. There's so much good stuff that has come out of this. So thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your school year.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Have a good day.